Alright, so I'm gonna start off by asking you a question. What is your favorite game of all time? Well, I don't think whatever game you said would have existed if it wasn't for another game which saved the whole industry. And thus I'll be reviewing Super Mario Bros. If that stupid robot didn't convince you to get an NES, it was Super Mario Bros. Oh man, I love this game. Even though I think the sequels are better. Not this one. The game was made by Nintendo and is a successor to the 1983 arcade game Mario Bros, which was the same year as the North America video game crash. The game was created by legendary director Shigeru Miyamoto, who went on to make the rest of the Mario series as well as The Legend of Zelda. Super Mario Bros. Also has its own story. Bowser, who at the time was called King Koopa, ended up turning the inhabitants of the Mushroom Kingdom into bricks, the same one Mario breaks in his adventure. He also nabbed Princess Peach too, who at the time was called Princess Toadstool. And well, no one else is fit for the job other than Mario and Green Mario. In 1985, stories in video games are often quite simplistic and can sometimes be quite vague. Usually, the Super Mario series gets a bad rap for using one-dimensional storytelling.
Mario! How dare you disturb my family vacation?
But I think this game should be excused, as the story isn't the main focus here, unlike, I don't know, Uncharted. The gameplay, on the other hand, is the reason why I love this game. One button allows you to run, while the other makes you jump. The controls are tight and also very flexible, especially in the air, which allows you to steer Mario's jump, meaning he can jump forwards and backwards. None of the deaths in this game were due to bad controls, but rather because I miscalculated a jump or something like that. I consider these to be the best controls for any platformer, and that's coming from somebody who's played his fair share of platformers. Each level has their own power-ups you can use. These range from a mushroom, which give Mario the ability to break bricks and take an extra hit. Games like Mega Man or Castlevania had health bars, which allow you to take multiple hits before dying. In this game, it's only up to 2 hits and you're dun 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 dun. Next is a Fire Flower, which gives you the ability to shoot up to 2 fireballs at a time, and you have to throw them if you want to run. This gives you the opportunity to kill some enemies that may be in front of you, which is kinda useful. This power-up is a definite mainstay in the Super Mario series, as it appears in pretty much every other 2D game. Then there's the star, which makes you invincible for a short time whenever touching it. This power-up comes with many names. It's the Superstar, Invincibility Star, Power Star, A-Star, Starman, Star Wars, Star Fox. It makes a lot of sense that the star is the rarest of all 3 power-ups, as it's the most overpowered and is also the only one which lasts for a limited time. Super Mario Bros., while primitive, has in my opinion the most balanced and fair power-ups in the Super Mario Bros. Trilogy. And it's not like it's impossible to beat a level without them. You can even beat the entire game without power-ups if you're experienced.
Like me.
Another thing worth noting is the level design. While not as memorable as something like Super Mario 64, Super Mario Bros. Has some brilliant level design that accommodates with the controls very well. Except the last level.
We don't talk about that one.
Speaking of, there are many different types of levels in the game, whether they are overworld, underground, underwater, and castle levels, each having something to help them stand apart from each other, especially the underwater levels, which is a nice way to break the game in my opinion. The controls are a bit awkward, especially the fact that these holes will suck Mario in, requiring you to And also, this is a thing. Hold up, I gotta think about something. Wait, how does fire work underwater? Since there is no air in the water, how is it possible for positives to sound stupid? If that's
NES games. Who needs logic?
The enemies in the game are also brilliant, and they accompany the levels very well. This could link to the excellent level design of the game. Some enemies even have interesting mechanics, such as the ability to kick the Koopa shell once jumping on it, or the Hammer Bros whose weakness is being attacked from below, and the level design allows you to do so. The music in Super Mario Bros. Is so iconic and unforgettable, from the upbeat overworld theme to the more atmospheric underground theme, to the more bubbly
Underwater
theme, as well as the chaotic castle theme. But we all know the title theme is the best. Have a listen. The music is so good you can't even hear it. What are the problems with this game? I was praising the shell out of it, but I didn't really mention anything wrong about the game, even with its most notable flaws. Let's start with the smaller aspects and work our way to the biggest problem. There are a few graphical glitches here and there. This is annoying when it happens, but I didn't come across it that much, and it didn't really affect the game for me. But one of the issues I had are the bosses, or boss. In fact, calling it a boss is an offense to real bosses. Seriously, there are two ways to beat him. One of them requires you to use the axe to destroy the bridge that King Koopa stupidly put there for a reason. Let's just leave it at that. Or, if you have the Fire Flower, just spam a bunch of fireballs at him until he dies. The problem with King Koopa is that he feels more like a stronger enemy than an actual boss. You can literally go to him with a mushroom or better and simply run straight through him, and then you'll beat the boss. Great, now do that 7 more times until you win. The only difference is that there'll be hammers King Koopa throws, much like the Hammer Bros from earlier. Yeah, the boss in this game kinda sucks, but keep in mind that this was made in 1985, and bosses weren't really the most common thing back then, but I do appreciate that they at least attempted to make a boss, even if that boss isn't, you know, a boss. Remember how I said every level but the last is well designed? Yeah, that's another flaw I noticed in this game. The final level repeats itself over and over again until you take the right path. This is simply bad design in my eyes. A 2D platformer shouldn't use trial and error as part of a level, especially when there's a timer in this game. But these problems are minor at most. But there is one fatal flaw that hits this game hard. Say it with me. You cannot save the game. What? That's right, you can't save your progress, meaning you have to beat the game in one sitting. Sure, you can use save states via emulation or virtual console, but in regards to the original version, once you turn the game off, all progress is lost, meaning you have to play through the same levels all over again. Thankfully, it's not required. In level 1-2, there is a warp zone which is a cool secret to find. These end up warping you to worlds 2, 3, and 4, and the same can be done for level 4-2 as well. This time, it requires a bit more exploration to find the warp zones for 6, 7, and 8, as going to the same route as last time only takes you to world 5. Sure, it somewhat fixes the problem, but it still doesn't make the no save problem less annoying. Even if Super Mario Bros. Isn't necessarily my favourite game in the Mario series, it's obviously in my top 5, and I still love playing it to this day. Super Mario Bros. Is a great game, especially for its time. Sure, many other platformers have surpassed it, but I do think that generally, the levels are brilliantly designed, and the controls are some of the best I've ever experienced. Sure, you can't save your game, and I do think that King Koopa is a terrible excuse for a boss, but I will always remember this game as a classic. Super Mario Bros. Gets my approval. My classic approval. And that was my Super Mario Bros. Review. I might consider reviewing the rest of the Super Mario Bros. Series, but for now, I'm going to test my skills in the Lost levels to see how good I am.
The game's too hard, boys. I can't beat it. Is that a bullet? Duck, boys! Duck! Wish I was playing the American Mario Bros.